Okay, good morning, good morning. Everyone get their coffee, everyone get their donut. Please make sure you get another coffee and another donut. Alan, good to see you, good to see you. Good morning, my name is Mark Lyman. I do economic development for the Minot Area Chamber EDC, and I know many of the faces here, but for those of you who are first time, welcome. For those who are second or third or fourth time, you're always welcome. So glad you could be here today. If you're not familiar with what Start Up Minot does, we're an organization of like-minded individuals and groups here in town, and our goal is pretty simple. We want to invigorate, encourage, and entice entrepreneurs to try out and to grow their business idea. So this is just one opportunity where we do that. Braden and Jordan, two of our guest speakers today, will talk about one other opportunity that they took advantage of a couple years ago, and that's the Academy. So the Startup Minot Academy is a 10-week course, and we can talk more about that later. But the goal today with these networking events is to learn from the speakers, to have some questions and hopefully some good answers from them as well, and to network with each other. So there's probably a really good chance if you look around the room, there's 3 or 4 or 5 faces that you don't know. I'm hoping today that you will introduce yourself to somebody you don't know and make a connection that's worthwhile for you as a business person. A lot of partners make this happen. I want to make sure we mention our partners: ND Small Business Development Centers, Service Basin Planning Council, Credence Energy, the Chamber EDC, Dakota Business Lending, many others from the private sector. Jonah Lanto, who usually does this job, but he's on the road with that small thing called Midwest Murders that he does. And then a lot of sponsors as well. So First Western Bank and Trust is our presenting sponsor. We also have as sponsors the Minot Area Chamber EDC, ND Small Business Development Centers, Bank of North Dakota, Brevera Town and Country Credit Union, First International Bank and Trust, Cornerstone Bank, Credence Energy Services, People's State Bank, and Dakota Business Lending. So we really want to do a nice shout out and a thank you to all those who make this possible. We try to keep these events low entry, so no cost for the networking event. And then the 10-week academy is only $150 to take that course. So we keep that cost down thanks to our sponsors. So having gotten all that out of the way, let's talk about our trio of entrepreneurs. So let's give a warm Startup Minot welcome to Lindsey Wald, Braden Bosch, and Jordan Huettl. And I get the opportunity to introduce our guests today, and you're going to notice a pattern here in their bios. So Dylan, I want you to shout it out when you hear it, okay? Lindsey was born and raised in Minot. She graduated high school from Bishop Bryan Catholic School, went on to graduate from MSU, Minot State University with a degree in business. She and her husband Jordan stay busy with their 3 kids. When Lindsey's father-in-law was ready to sell their family business, Valley Custom Meats and Valley Store Supply, what we know today as the meat company, she left her role in advancement and foundation work to be with the meat company full-time. Braden is also a Minot native who attended Bishop Bryan and Minot State. He has 2 boys. Braden's background was in finance, sales, and insurance before his move to the meat company. Between his family owning a butcher shop in Linton, North Dakota, and his personal wild game processing experience, the move to the meat company was a natural fit. You found it yet, Dylan? Jordan rounds out the trio of owners at the meat company. Guess what? Also a Minot native. Anyone want to guess where he graduated high school from? Bishop Bryan, and where he went on to earn a degree in finance at Minot State University. We love that. So we love that. He and his wife, Katie, have 3 kids prior to the meat company. Jordan worked in oil and gas for 10 years and then management at Tires Plus, which we now know as Trusted Tire. So let's start with the easy question. Why did you guys all pick the same background in life? How long have you known each other? Has it been since like first grade, throwing rocks at each other at the recess, you know?
Maybe not quite that long for me.
7th grade?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 1 year older than these guys. My husband graduated with them.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we've known each other for a long time, went to school together, stayed great friends. Our families are great friends, and we live like on the same block basically now. So just can't get enough of each other.
Literally within?
Like a couple blocks.
Couple blocks of each other.
Yeah.
Not required in business, but maybe it's helpful to know each other really well.
I know where to find her when I want to complain about something.
Yeah.
Yes. So across the backyard.
So the first actual serious question of the day then. So does it make it easier or harder to work in a partnership like this, knowing everybody so well? Does it make it easier or harder to have all that background?
Some of both, I think. Before we got started, some people said, "Oh, how are you going to go into business with people? How do you trust them?" Well, of course, I trust them. That side of things, great. When we're all trying to do the same social activities, for instance, little tricky.
Someone's got to man the store.
Well, right. We're doing the same things, and so that gets a little tricky. But other than that, I mean, great.
Yeah, I think, we do trust each other. We know each other well. Our value systems align. So all those things make it easier, for sure. And I think in any sort of partnership, no matter what business you're in or who you're working with, communication is just so important, and making sure that we can talk to each other and be honest. And that's been really an asset because we already were so comfortable with each other.
So then where did the conversation start? How many years ago did someone say to somebody else, "Hey, would you ever consider owning this company?" I mean,
You want to talk about that, Braden? How it started?
So it was November 2022. Brian needed some help at the Old Valley Custom Meats cutting up an elk. They were short-staffed. Jordan Wald and I went out there, and he said, "I don't know what they're going to do." And I said, "Let's buy it." Kind of half joking, half serious. And we slept on it, and the next day we started a text chain, texted Jordan, said, "Hey, we got to talk about something." And he instinctively knew that's where we were leading the conversation. And the next 6 months we started doing our due diligence, and April of 2023 it was official.
So, did anyone, you don't want that mic, do you, Brady? No.
He doesn't love it.
Listen, the best grade I ever got in a speech class was a C, and it was in college, and it was online, so I had to videotape myself giving speeches in front of these guys, and I still sucked at it.
Well, you're at a B plus at least at this point, so good for you. Did any of the three of you imagine that you would own a business growing up? Was this ever something that teenager or 20-something that you were like, one of these days I will own that business?
Yeah, I think that's always been on all of our minds, honestly. It's been something that we've all had a passion for. I went to school for business and marketing, kind of that standard triple major at Minot State, and that's been enticing to me. I've heard my husband talk about it many times with, his two friends, like, what can we buy together? What should we do? Not really knowing what it was going to be, but that we all really had that drive to want to do something that was our own.
Where does that drive come from, Jordan? Why did you've worked for other people before, now that you work for yourself, what does that drive look like?
I think in some ways being a little hard-headed and you want to do it your own way, in a good way, and just what can you maximize, what can you, I don't know how to describe it, I guess, but what can you bring out of something that somebody else didn't see? Okay. That was the part that was
build it.
Yeah, exactly. It attracted to me.
Okay, so what changed significantly then from what we know as the old custom meat shop to now the meat company? What was the biggest things that you guys decided to implement? Braden, I'm going to pick on you first. What was the biggest change? What was the biggest
I'll hold
thing?
it for you.
Okay, so there was a great foundation there. It was an established business. Bonnie and Brian did a great job since 2010, 11 when it first opened. They poured everything they had into it. It was just time for some new eyes. They worked hard enough for long enough. They deserve to retire. So when we got in there, it's a long list. We spent, 6, 8, 10 months probably cleaning, knocking walls down, building walls, giving it a facelift, paint job. So the image, the look was kind of the first thing we attacked. And then from there, it's been every week. There's been something new that we're still kind of working towards improving, growing.
So it's really not where you want it to be yet. It's still got growth to happen.
Yeah, financially, we're still, we've seen significant improvements week to week, month to month, and year over year. But like Jordan said, we're stubborn, hard-headed. We want to keep growing as fast as we can handle anyway.
Okay. Jordan, how about for you? What were the biggest things that you decided to change or move or improve? Or
No, I think just what he said, some of the physical things, the building, we made some other improvements, and part of it was just, it was a very good foundation, a little renewed enthusiasm for it, because it's not the most fun job every day necessarily. I mean, it's a physical labor job. So we're building on that, trying to be a little more out in the community, trying to support everything under the sun, it feels like some days. And we're kind of just day by day still. I mean, what else can we add? What can we take on? Growing the staff, trying to make it a little more of I would say a 12-month business versus, it was pretty heavily based on the wild game stuff, which is
more seasonal.
a little more seasonal.
Yep.
So trying to round that out and so far so good. So.
Okay. Lindsey, can you talk about the next steps? What does it look like going forward? What do you hope to do? Is there any small plans or big plans in the back of your guys' head? Are we going to add on? Are we going to continue adding more staff? What does it look like in the future?
Yeah, so as they mentioned, there was a lot of modernization and different things we had to do, adding the point of sale system, adding, different things that make our jobs a little bit easier and easier to track and knowing where we're at so that we can envision where we want to go. And I think that adding, new creativity, talking about new products all the time, growing just the things that we have, bringing in new ideas. We try to follow meetups nationwide because we are so interested in what are people doing? What can be new and exciting to offer to our people here in this community that we love. And we want to get out to maybe doing more shows, in the area, maybe getting an enclosed trailer where you can go and be on the road and do some other things outside of our immediate shop. But yes, we also need to grow our staff. We just bought a second smoker so we can double our production. But that also comes with needing more coolers and all the other steps that come down the line. It's not just making the product, it has to go somewhere. More front cooler space and all the things, meaning another register probably, because we were lucky enough to have a wonderful holiday season, but making sure that our customers are taken care of efficiently. And there's just a lot more steps, growing our HACCP plan. We're custom exempt, but we can't really sell our value added smoked products outside of our shop right now. So we would love to be able to do that. We can do things like burger patties and steaks and things like that for restaurants. And we have a great new partnership with the Hot Tots and Honeybees this year with our burgers and whatnot, which is exciting, but we want to be able to do that with everything.
Okay.
So
good steps forward then. Be thinking of some questions. I'm going to wrap up my questions here in a minute. So for those of you who are new, there'll come a time for some good Q&A, and we'll just have a great conversation with this trio of entrepreneurs. What was the biggest, or what was a helpful resource to you when you were getting started in that 6-month process leading up to it? Was there a bank program you leaned on? Did you go bug someone at Minot State University since you all knew everybody at Minot State already? I mean, where did you go to get the help that you wanted in figuring out what you were doing?
So I guess my husband's in banking, and that
helps.
That was extremely beneficial. Yeah. So we knew a lot of people also in the banking industry. My brother-in-law owns a financial firm, and he was also super helpful in just helping us understand kind of what we were taking on, where we were headed. There were so many people, building experts. Jordan has a lot of background with that, as well as his dad, just helping us look at the building. Like, what do we need to do? What are our next steps here? What are we going to need to invest on that side of things? Who else?
Yeah, I mean, the Startup Academy was a big part of that too for us. Braden and I, like you said, we attended that. We had some of that in motion already, the ideas, but to actually have to put them on paper and look at them and go, does this look right? Or are we doing it in the right order, all the right areas? That was extremely helpful too. I think just the combination of all the above.
All the above.
Yeah.
And what would you do? What would you use going forward? I mean, as you're continuing to look at growing, you've got that good relationship with a bank. You've got that relationship that you need with your customer. What does that look like going forward? How do you know the next best steps to take going forward?
When we took the class, Ryan Ackerman said something that kind of stuck with me, and that you mentioned it the other day too. Don't saw your sawdust, work on your business, not in it all the time. I think sometimes we have to take a step back from the day-to-day, the grind that is the day-to-day in the job we do. We've talked about that recently, figuring out what's our next little step, what's our next big step. I think we do a good job of having quarterly meetings outside of the shop to kind of discuss those things, what's working right now, what's not working. I think they both mentioned it too, open, honest communication. It's not always comfortable conversations, but when you've known each other for over 20 years, if you get mad at each other, we're at least the three of us, and Jordan and Katie's, Jordan's wife, are pretty good at squashing things, having those uncomfortable conversations, putting our friendships first. That's been big for us too, I think. But yeah, not sawing our sawdust, working on the business, not in it.
Not in it as much. Good.
I always tell him he's got to come back and see me the next day anyway. So
Yeah.
you can't hide.
You can't be mad at me too long. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's kind of the questions I had. I want to open up to some Q&A here. What questions do we have, folks? Don't be shy now. Okay.
I almost always.
No, you're never shy.
So, on the partnership side of things, I mean, I know that you talked about trust a little bit, but how do you handle a dispute? How do you handle a disagreement that has to be solved, but you all have different ideas, or at least, especially like if there was 2 against 1 on a certain idea?
Okay, good question. How do you handle that dispute when it's actually a tough conversation? How do you handle that conversation?
Yeah.
I think we've kind of talked it out for the most part. I don't know that we've had a real.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had anything incredibly serious probably, but there's certainly things that we disagree on. And that's just our human nature. We're all very different individuals and different personalities. I would say there's been times where maybe one person feels really strongly about something and the other 2 don't. And sometimes we just don't know how to fix the problem initially. We've sought outside advice on issues when needed to kind of better understand maybe where that person's coming from. And then we've returned to the topic later, but kind of given it some time to settle and done some research. But yeah, there's inevitably those times, absolutely. And they will continue, most certainly. But I think, yeah, it's just having the person sometimes that's just like prodding, like, you don't want it sitting on your brain and bubbling and growing and turning into something that it doesn't need to turn into. So as the female of the group, a lot of times I'm like, what can we talk about? Let's talk about it, you know? You guys want anything going on up there? Or? Yeah.
The answer is usually no.
I was just going to say the other one helpful thing I think before we got into it, we didn't like super define roles, but we kind of have our areas, and for the most part, if it's in your lane, you're kind of the tiebreaker, so to speak.
Yeah.
You
No,
know.
and I think that's a really important.
Yeah, no,
we
and
kind of
it-
do each have our.
Have respect for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Ultimately, our roles.
So I'm going to ask a tough follow-up question to that. Do you guys have something down on paper that says, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, if I want to get out of this business, here's what it looks like? You guys have a plan for
Legally, we do.
Yeah.
technically?
We did hire a lawyer when we started to kind of drop a joint venture agreement.
Good,
We
good.
discussed a minimum amount of time that needs to be invested before anyone would be able to walk away,
Okay.
what that looks like if someone wants to walk away, like as far as the other 2 buying out the third person or whatnot. So there is technically
Good.
those things
Good.
in place. Yeah.
Kudos to you guys, because sometimes that's one of the more difficult conversations to have, and you don't want to have that in year 3 or year 10 or year 20 for the first time. You know, if you're going to have a partnership, all the advice says, line up what that partnership looks like, be very clear about it. Helps the banks have a little bit of certainty that you guys know what you're doing, and then there's a little bit of peace of mind, because life changes. Where are you going to be in 5 years or 10 years? You're not sure. Hopefully in the exact same spot doing all the
Same
great
block.
things. On the same block, probably, right? Probably back at Minot State. Okay, so, but that's a good reminder that, you know, if you're going to do this, if you're going to get into a partnership, do it right. Okay, what other questions do we have? Come on, guys. Yes, in the back.
So you said you was going to maybe ramp up staffing. What kind of staffing does that look like? Is that front line, or do you have qualifications? Like, do you have a butcher shop in the back and they have to go to butcher school, or
Sure.
is it a professional, or what kind of staffing would make your business thrive, and is that easy to find?
Great question. So questions about staffing.
Yeah, so I think we all had our level of expertise as coming into the business, but we knew like day one that we would love to have kind of a professional butcher with a background in butchering full time. And we've been lucky enough to bring that person on who's kind of in a manager role now there. I'd say from there, it's just building support staff around that. Having experience for sure is a benefit, because at this point, we're really looking for more people that are processing and doing all that hands-on work. So having experience, knowing what you're doing in that area is super helpful. We do need a little bit of kind of other part-time help probably that just, fills spices and keeps the store stocked and can maybe check out customers, but that would be maybe not as high of priority.
And is that something that high schoolers, or does it have to be
Sure.
all adult people that
No, we have a high schooler working for us right now, and yeah.
So someone wants that summer job, or if they're interested in learning the trade a little bit.
Yeah, we
I'll
get
give
some
you a
people
call.
out of the classes at Minot High.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Smart.
Yeah, it's been great. We took a chance on a kid that walked in our door and said, I want a job, and that was
He's phenomenal, yeah.
almost 2 years ago already. So, which didn't seem like much, but it's a huge deal for a small business for us.
Yeah, it is. So where are you guys at staffing wise? 7, 8, 9 employees? Where are you at?
Part-timers. We have seasonal because of the wild game processing and holiday. We have some farmers that kind of do
Is that kind of like voluntold? Like is that family members who say, you're now a seasonal employee?
We have one of those
One
in
of
the
those?
crowd.
We have one of those. Yeah.
Anyone else on the block? I mean, do you have to work on the block in order to be
No, 3's the limit.
Three's a limit, okay. I was smart to get that in the partnership.
Yeah.
Only 3 people on the same block. Good call. Okay, what other questions do we have? Yes.
So, coming from the dairy farming industry, inspectors and all of the red tape that you go through, how difficult do you find that is dealing with?
Okay, so question is, how do you handle the bureaucracy, the red tape of the industry?
I won't fire it up. It hasn't been too bad. I mean, they're obviously they're on us all the time. We're subject to a quarterly. First District Health was just there yesterday. Was that yesterday? Day before. But it's. I think you just get used to it, and hopefully we're raising our standard. We haven't had any major issues, that sort of thing. So it just keeps you on top of your game. Make sure our practices are up to snuff, so to speak, and
Haven't had
just
an issue.
that's what's needed.
Yeah.
So
It's a requirement, so you
Yeah.
want to meet it.
yeah, is it a little annoying some days? Yes, but it's okay.
Well, and I think there's an interesting balance because I think the customer wants a high quality, right?
Oh,
and
yes.
You want to provide that.
Yes.
And so the First District Health or some of these others, a USDA or a Department of Agriculture, whatever that requirement may be tied to food, hopefully there's a rationale for it, and both parties understand that rationale.
Yeah, absolutely. And with some of the growth things that we're looking at, some of that stuff's going to go to a whole new level.
Okay.
So we're
In a good way.
we're doing our best to meet that standard and hopefully exceed it. So
Okay, I like that pun. Okay, right in here in front.
Yeah, Brandon Rogers with Procom 360 here in Minot. I just wanted to ask you kind of a two-part question. My first was, would you say it was an easier challenge to buy an existing location, business that you wanted to get into, rather than do something from scratch? If you were able to expand,
Yeah, good question.
in your mind, could you balance the two, and which would be easier?
You have clearly have experience one way, but
Yeah.
was there ever a conversation, or would you ever look at a greenfield or a brand new shop, brand new location, brand new name?
So, I mean, we already did the new name thing, right? So it was a little scary to do that because everybody knew the product that had a really great name. as one thing. So, but we combined 2 stores into one. It just seemed like the natural move for us to do a little bit of rebranding and kind of splash it out there. My father-in-law hadn't done a lot with like marketing and that kind of thing, and we just kind of wanted to go fresh and push that and become known as that. But with great ties to our roots and really giving them the honor that they deserve for that. Yeah, location-wise is a little tricky for us. We call ourselves a destination because we are certainly on the outskirts of town, heading out of town, and that can be a challenge for sure. If we would, select a place to be, it potentially would be a little bit more centrally located, but is it in the plans in the next few years to move? No, but never say never. I mean, I think we're all open to whatever opportunities arise for sure. So it comes with its challenges, but also just the benefit of having an already somewhat established business has been immensely grateful.
And then my second part, do you plan on having a spot in the state fair at all? A presence, I should say. Or if that's a secret.
No. No, I don't know that at this point. That would take, a lot away from our standing business. And we're lucky enough to be able to do a lot of business on the daily basis, where if we had to take our staff and kind of move out there, that would, I don't know, it presents some challenges. Not impossible in the future, but probably not happening yet.
In less than 2 months.
Yeah. No, but there's other things that we're definitely looking at doing this year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great questions. Yep, Kevin in the back.
So I was at your place for about 2 hours back in December, and I cannot forget how much it felt like a neighborhood pub at happy hour. It was such a sense of community. I mean, people coming in. It was that time of the day, end of the work day, end of school day, prior to dinner for a lot. But it was an amazing experience, and I'm wondering how you have, as an out of the way destination, how you have created that sense of community where people want to go out of their way in some cases to be a part of what you've built.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it's just obviously everything we do starts with top quality. We're like we talked about, we're not on the way to anything except Williston, really. So you got to keep people coming back. Hopefully you come in the door, somebody's greeting you with some enthusiasm. You're gonna hopefully find what you're looking for, and we've just stuck to that and really prided ourselves in trying to be consistent on having what you need and being there ready to do whatever you'd like us to do. We love it when people come in with a new idea. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? We're open for business for anybody's big ideas that they want to have, and do the best we can do with it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And we hope that's kind of our brand, right? Like, I want to know our customers. We all do. We want to know what your kids are up to, and how your holiday went, and that's just, we want to be able to offer that option to the community, that you can kind of walk into a place that feels like home, and you can rely on us to give you something that's really high quality to feed your families and to celebrate all the occasions, and have you wanting to keep coming back for that.
And maybe part of that is the long time friendship with our families too.
Yeah,
it kind of just
it
comes out of us anyway. So
yeah.
Okay. Scott, did you have a question?
Yeah, so is your meat locally sourced? And then the other question is, I believe you've also worked with some other small businesses too, and are offering other products that are sort of related. How did you go about making those decisions?
So I guess that's kind of probably my area. Don't want to take over, Braden, if you want.
No, absolutely. Go
Okay.
I'm good.
So regarding our, let's talk like beef, elk, bison, lamb. Those things are pretty easy to source, at least within the state or surrounding states. So looking at like North Dakota, South Dakota, there might be some things that come out of Minnesota, like at Thanksgiving time. Our turkeys ended up coming out of a farm in northern Minnesota. Sometimes Nebraska, just depends, because we need consistent sourcing is the main thing, right? But we're always primarily looking at local products, keeping it as local as possible at any given time. So those things are really easy. Poultry is a little more difficult. There's no one really like USDA inspecting chickens locally that we can just get in. So then we do the next best thing, which is just researching companies that are clean, that aren't doing injections and hormones and things that we don't want to feed ourselves and our own children. So why are we going to offer it to the community? So we do our best to really keep all the products on the shelf, things that we feel like we can stand behind as far as from a quality perspective. And then, it's just what we care about. Our passion is we want to support other local businesses. So anything that we can bring into our store to offer that other local farmers and producers are doing, partnering with the CSA program, that's, we are the pickup point kind of for that program. Anything that we can support with regards to building up our local community is something that we want to do. So we reach out to a lot of these people and just ask if they would be open to having their products in our store. And the more that we can do that right here from home, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you become a destination, right? Then as people talk about, you don't have to be on
they
South
had to
Broadway.
come.
They have to come to you.
The CSA people have to come to
Yeah.
our place. Yeah.
So it helps. It helps. One more question here. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys mentioned like the next steps of the business and expanding where your products are available. I guess does that come with more red tape as far as expanding where those products can be sold? Just to get in front of more people, or is it the production side of things?
It's more red tape, probably.
Yeah,
than
I'd say a
background
little
side,
bit of
yeah.
both. For us to sell anything wholesale, we'd have to go to a different inspection level with the state, which is obtainable with some improvements, some upgrades, that sort of thing. Hopefully that happens in the future when you're trying to grind through the daily, keep the daily business running and working on those projects. That's been a challenge for us, just being a smaller.
I think that's our next step, is finding that balance between where are we spending our money, what's going to be more efficient and help us grow. You can hold it. We're hiring staff to help us maintain that day to day and week to week and keep up, while also getting the new smoker up and running, buying another walk-in cooler. Because if we do, or when we do go to that next step, there's going to be inspectors there more often, which is great. We have nothing to hide when we talk about the inspections. It's just we have to be able to balance what we currently are doing, the pace we're growing, and how we get to where we want to be.
Because everything has to be kept separate, right? So if we were going to sell our brats somewhere else, outside the business, that's like a whole, can't touch anything else, right? So it's just, there is a lot of red tape that goes into that, making sure that everything is where it needs to be.
In the right spot.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to close today by asking each of the entrepreneurs to give us one piece of advice, and a piece of advice you would give to someone who has never started a business, or someone maybe who has an existing business. There's a fair number of folks here who are in the grind just like you guys are. So Braden, you're the talkative one, so you get to go first. What piece of advice would you give an entrepreneur, whether they're starting a business, whether they're in it? What would you pass along? What nugget of information?
I should have prepared for that one. Take the co-starters class, or the Start Up Minot Academy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seriously though, that was very helpful. Talk to other business owners, do your research, and then do everything with confidence.
Okay, good advice. Jordan?
Yeah, that's honestly what I was going to say. Have a little confidence. I know at times we've looked at each other and went, what are we doing? But I mean, you just plow through that. And my only other thought, looking back at this now, some days I think I wish I would have done that 10 years earlier. Life gets nothing but busier. So you can dedicate yourself to that a little more. When you start talking about kids and family life and that, it's, I'd like to be there 24 hours a day, but they won't let me do that. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Okay, and Jordan or Lindsey, finish this off.
Yeah, so building on everything they said, do your research, know what you're getting into, talk to professionals, talk to other business owners. But also, have goals and set those in place, know where you want to be in 3 years and 5 years and 10 years, but then manage expectations. Don't think that you can have a 5-year store in 2 years. Just set realistic steps to attain your goals along the way, and you'll get there.
You'll get there. Mm-hmm. Great advice. Okay, let's give a round of applause to our 3 speakers. See, Braden, wasn't that hard? No. B+ still at least. That's for you. Second Thursday of every month, we're here at the Carnegie Center. So I know I see a lot of familiar faces, but I see some new faces as well. So please, if you've got some ideas for people you'd like to hear from in the community, please let me know. Let a member of our committee know. This advice came from Service Basin Planning Council and a connection to the family. So please make sure that you're letting us know who you would like to hear from, and we'll try and make sure we get them in here. And then both Jordan and Braden mentioned it, but again, a reminder, there is a 10-week Startup Minot Academy powered by Co-Starters. That will be starting up the next one in the fall. So we'll start that one up in September. Alan Gohary with the Small Business Development Center and myself will be kind of co-facilitating that. So if you have any interest in that or know someone that you think might have a business idea or is starting a business or already in a business who would like to kind of take that Business 101 refresher course, please send them our way. We'd love to help them out. So thank you again. Yeah, thanks guys. And enjoy some networking and finish that coffee and donuts. Okay. Thank you.